I asked you right now where your energy is going this week, you'd probably say something like the business, the staff, the 100 things that need doing. And you wouldn't be wrong, but you wouldn't be specific enough to do anything useful with that answer either. Because the problem most hospitality founders have isn't that they're busy, it's that they don't actually know what they're busy with. The week ends and they're exhausted and they couldn't tell you precisely what consumed them. They just know it did. The two tools I'm working through in this video will fix that. They're the same tools I use with every founder I work with in the first phase of our time together. And the founders who do this work properly are almost always surprised what they find. Not because the drains are dramatic, because the drains are invisible and invisible problems can't be fixed. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Lead Well channel, where we explore the inner world of leadership, well-being, and what it means to build a business and a life that doesn't break you. My name's Trevor and I've run a multi-award winning restaurant and cocktail bar, but I didn't come from a hospitality background. I built the business from the ground up, learning as I went, figuring it out in real time. One of the most useful things I did in my own recovery from burnout was sit down and actually track where my time and energy were going. Not approximately, but specifically. Because I'd been telling myself a story about what was consuming me, and that turned out to only be partially true. The things I thought were the problems weren't always the main problem, and the things I barely noticed were sometimes costing me more than almost everything else. This video is a practical walkthrough of two tools, the Energy Leak Tracker and the Time Audit Tool. I'm going to explain what each one is for, walk you through how to use each of them, and fill in the hypothetical founder's week so that you can see exactly how it works before you try it with your own. Both documents are available in the Lead Well community, which is completely free and linked in the description. Download them before you watch or come back to them after. Either way, this video will make more sense if you have them in front of you. Before we get into the tools themselves, I want to spend a moment on why this kind of tracking matters, because I know some founders will look at the data of logging their week and think it sounds like more work on top of an already impossible amount of work. Here's the thing, you're already doing the work, you're already spending the time and the energy. The tracking doesn't add anything, it just makes visible what's already happening so that you can make decisions about it rather than just absorbing it. The founder who doesn't do this lives in a permanent state of reactive overwhelm. Every week feels like the last one. The same drains appeared in the same places. The same exhaustion at the end of it. No data from which to make changes, just the feeling of being consumed without knowing by what specifically. The founder who does this, even for 3 or 5 days, comes out the other side with something genuinely useful. A picture, a pattern, a specific list of 2 or 3 things that are taking disproportionate amounts of energy and that can be adjusted, protected against, and delegated. That's the difference between surviving the week and learning from it. We're going to start with the Energy Leak Tracker because it's the more immediate and personal of the two. And then we'll move to the Time Audit Tool, which gives you a broader picture of how your hours are being distributed across different types of work. The Lead Well community is where both these tools live alongside everything else that I've built for hospitality founders. It's completely free. There are resources, a community of people who actually understand what running a venue feels like from the inside, and posts from me every week that you can interact with as you see fit. The link's in the description. It's completely free, so please come and find us. Let's get back to the video. This is the Energy Leak Tracker, 4 pages, 3 working parts. And the most important thing I want you to understand about it before we go through it is this. The goal isn't to eliminate every drain from your working week. That's not possible, and it's not the point. The goal is to notice what needs a boundary, to see a pattern clearly enough that you can make 1 or 2 deliberate adjustments rather than just absorbing everything that comes at you. So we're going to go through it section by section. Step 1, the daily snapshot. This is what you're filling once a day, ideally at the end of your working day before you switch off. It takes about 3 minutes. You score your energy at the start and the end of the day on a scale of 1 to 10. Not how you think it should be, how it actually is. If you woke up at a 4 and finished the day at a 2, write that. The honesty is the point. And then you name your biggest energy drain of the day. One specific thing, not the whole business, not the week, just today. The one thing that took the most out of you. Then the biggest energy gain. The thing that gave you something back, that mattered rather than took. This matters because most founders in the middle of a hard period have forgotten that gains exist. Finding one every day, even a small one, starts to shift the internal picture. And then one interruption you could have avoided or delayed. This is the most practically useful field on the whole page because interruptions in hospitality are constant and most of them feel urgent when they arrive. But most of them aren't, and naming one each day that could have been handled differently builds a very useful picture over a week. You can already see something useful happening here. On a Tuesday, this founder started reasonably well, a 6, and finished at a 3. The drain was covering a shift, which is both a time cost and an energy cost because it pulled them out of the work only they can do. The gain was a focused conversation that gave them information that they needed. And the interrupted pattern, 3 separate messages about one thing that could have been one conversation, is already the beginning of a pattern worth addressing. That's one day. 3 days of this gives you something to work with. 5 days gives you a very clear picture. Step 2, the real-time log. This one runs alongside the day as things happen rather than as a retrospect at the end of it. You note the time, what happened, how it affected your energy or focus, and whether it could have been avoided, delayed, or delegated. The example in the document gives you 2 entries, a staff member asking a question they've asked before, which caused frustration and broke focus, and a WhatsApp check mid-task that turned into 4 minutes of distraction. Both were avoidable, neither felt significant in the moment. Together, they represent a pattern of low-level, high-frequency energy drain that compounds over the course of a day and a week into something significant. Look at the second entry. The founder isn't just logging a drain, they're seeing something about their own pattern. They keep fixing things themselves instead of having the teaching conversation. That observation captured in real time is worth far more than a coaching session that tries to reconstruct the week from memory. Step 3, the weekly reflection. At the end of the week, you sit with what you've logged and identify the top 3 recurring energy leaks, the things that came up the most often, the patterns rather than the individual incidents. Then you answer one question: what can be adjusted or protected next week? Not just a to-do list, not a restructuring of the business, just 1 or 2 small adjustments that could reduce the most significant leaks. A WhatsApp rule, a protected planning block, a conversation that keeps being avoided, a shift coverage protocol that stops the same problem arising weekly. 2 things, specific, actionable, and based entirely on the evidence from the week rather than a general feeling that things just need to change. Okay, let's look at the second tool. This is the Time Audit Tool. The Time Audit is the companion piece to the Energy Leak Tracker, where the tracker is about the quality of your energy across the week. The audit is about the distribution of your time, and specifically about whether the work you're doing actually matches the role that you should be in. This one runs over 48 to 72 hours. 2 to 3 working days, and it requires a level of honesty that some founders find uncomfortable, because what most founders discover when they do this properly is that a significant portion of their week is being spent doing work that isn't actually a founder's job. Step 1, time tracking. Every hour, or in blocks if that's more realistic, you log what you did, whether it was necessary and how it made you feel. The feeling column is the one people skip, and it's the one that matters most. Not calm or rushed as broad categories, but specific. Drained, frustrated, present, in flow, resentful. The feeling tells you something the time column can't. 2 hours spent on the same type of task can feel completely different depending on whether it's yours to be doing. A founder spending 2 hours on strategy feels present and engaged. The same founder spending 2 hours covering a bar shift because they can't get the rota sorted feels drained and resentful. Same duration, completely different cost. Already you can see a pattern forming. The morning started scattered, moving into operational coverage that wasn't planned, had one high quality focused hour and ended with a drain that probably didn't need to be at the founder level. Step 2, categorizing your time. This is where the picture sharpens. At the end of each day, you label every block with one of 6 categories. Core owner work. The strategy, the vision, the key decisions, the relationships that only you can manage. This is the work the business most needs from you and the work that almost always gets squeezed out by everything else. Manager work, the rota, the ordering, the cashing up, the operational admin. Necessary, but not exclusively yours. Much of this is delegatable with the right systems in place. Staff level work, covering shifts, clearing tables, running food, any task that belongs on a team member's job description rather than yours. Avoidance work. This is the one that lands hardest. The admin you do when there's a harder decision or decision waiting. The organizing and tidying and low priority tasks that feel like productivity but are actually just displacement. Emotional labor. The conflict management, the being everyone's fixer, the holding onto the team's anxiety as well as your own. This is the real work and it has a real cost. Most founders don't account for it at all. Personal time. Wellbeing, rest, time that is genuinely yours. For most hospitality founders in the middle of a difficult period, this category is nearly empty. That absence is data. One morning, 1 hour of core owner work. The rest distributed across categories that are either below founder level or emotionally costly. That's not unusual. That's the pattern for most founders who do this exercise. The useful thing is seeing it clearly rather than just feeling it as a general weight. Step 3, pattern analysis. 4 questions to answer honestly at the end of the tracking period. Where is most of your time going? For our hypothetical founder, the answer is reactive operational work, staff level tasks, and emotional labor. What kind of work is taking the most energy but isn't moving the needle? The emotional labor and the avoidance work. Both drain significantly and neither produces anything that advances the business. How much of your week is spent doing things someone else could be trained to do? For our founder here, at minimum, a third of what we've tracked so far, probably more across the full week. What are you avoiding and what is that costing you? The teaching conversations that keep getting replaced by doing it yourself. The cost is a team that doesn't grow and a founder that stays in the bottleneck indefinitely. Step 4, the real cost reflection. This one is uncomfortable and that's why it's important. You put a value on your time, not what you pay yourself, what your time is actually worth as the founder of a business. What an hour of your core owner work done well and consistently is worth to the business over a year. Then you calculate how much of that time you spent this week doing low impact work and you multiply it out. For our hypothetical founder, if they value their time at £50 an hour, they spent 15 hours of the week doing staff level or avoidance work. That's £750 of founder time spent below founder level every week. £39,000 a year roughly of the most expensive person in the business doing tasks that shouldn't be theirs. That number tends to land differently to a general conversation about delegation. It makes the cost concrete, and concrete problems have concrete solutions. Step 5, the time shift plan. 2 changes, just 2. Chosen from the evidence of the week rather than from the general aspiration to do things differently. Not 10 things, not a restructuring, 2 specific changes to trial next week and review the following week. What to do with what you find. Here's what I want you to take from this practically. Do the energy leak tracker for 5 working days. Do the time audit for 2 or 3. They don't need to run simultaneously, although they can. The tracker is daily and takes only a few minutes, and the audit is more intensive and only needs to run for a short period to give you enough data. At the end of the tracking period, sit with the pattern analysis sections on both documents and answer the questions honestly. You're looking for 2 or 3 specific things that are costing you disproportionately. Not everything, not a comprehensive overhaul, just 2 or 3. Then choose 2 changes, specific, small, trialable in a week. Write them down, not in your head, on the document, and review them the following week to see whether the changes held and whether they made a difference. And that's it. That's the whole process. Not a revolution, an audit followed by 2 small deliberate adjustments followed by a review. Done consistently over a few months, this process produces a founder who actually knows where their energy is going and has built genuine structural protections around the parts of the week that matter the most. The founder who does this isn't working less, they're working with more intention. And the difference between those 2 things is the difference between surviving the week and actually leading it. Listen, the 2 tools in this video, it won't fix everything. They're not designed to. They're designed to make visible the things that have been invisible, to turn the general feeling of being consumed into a specific nameable picture that you can actually do something about. Both documents are free in the Lead Well community. The link's in the description. Download them, watch this video back while you have them in front of you, and do the work this week. The data will tell you things about your own patterns that a year of general conversations about burnout and balance and self-care never could. You already know something is wrong. These tools tell you specifically what. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and a subscribe. It helps me, it helps the channel, and it helps people like us find the content that really matters. And as always, I'd love to remind you that you matter too. Don't forget that.